Hey, Steve!
Hey, Chris!
So, normally I would ask you, what did you think of Iconoclasts? But before we jump into that, we got a couple of things to address. Firstly, this is the first time one of my podcast episodes is on my YouTube channel, so for those that might have actually clicked the link in the subscription feed, assuming it showed up, this is not going to be a regular thing. Like, I'm not going to post every episode of the podcast, but special episodes. Like, the next one is probably when we talk about Spider-Man, when you finish it in, like, I don't know, sometime in 2021.
Most likely.
So, this is my podcast. It's what I sort of normally do with my friend Steve. We try and do it every other week, but that's kind of the second problem to address is...
we fell into a time warp.
Yes, that's exactly.
And we lost weeks, months. I don't even know how long it's been since.
But we did save the future.
We did.
Yes. No, all seriousness, I suffered something called sciatica. It means I'm an old man now with like bad backs and pinched nerves, and all the exercise I was trying to do only made it worse. So, I was basically out for a month, and before that there was just lots of bad weather and stuff every time we tried to record. So we're back now. We're hopefully going to be semi-regular again, try every other week. If you want to keep up with every episode or see anything else, I have a new website, www.RamblePak64.com. It's my blog. It's got links to the videos and other information, and it's got this podcast and links to it. So everything, one place, and even those that normally listen to the podcast get it through the RSS feed. There you go, RamblePak64.com. You can even play it within the posts. I made nice little updates.
Fancy.
It's all HTML5 now. So, that's it. That's the background there. So, hey, Steve.
Hey, Chris.
What did you think of Iconoclasts?
I was blown away.
You're lying to me right now.
No, I'm not lying to you. I didn't know what to expect. I've played, so I'm a big fan of the Vita. I'm like the Vita evangelist.
You're one of 7?
Vita evangelist. Yeah.
Vita Meena evangelist?
Yeah. And so the flow of games has not been particularly, well, the flow of AAA major publisher type games has not been that great on the Vita, but the number of retro, indie, side-scrolling platformers, Metroidvanias, we've been awash with those. Yes. So I've tried quite a few. And so initially you recommend this game Iconoclasts, and I'm like, the art style looks cool. And that was probably the only thing that actually got me to play it to begin with, because I really like this art style. I watched the trailer, I like the animation style. Okay, I'll try it out. And it's just really head and shoulders to me above all these other similar type games that I've played recently and before that on the Vita.
Because I think originally when we were talking about it, you weren't as impressed as I was with it. But at the same time, you also came back to me later like, yeah, I tried to play this other game and wow, Iconoclast does a really good job. Which I think for me is part, because I don't play a lot of indie games very often. Like that trailer I linked you, the launch trailer or whatever, the release date trailer, that was what caught my attention. And I was like, man, I love the look of the animation. It looks like it's story heavy like an RPG, but it's like a action platformer. So I decided, okay, this is like Hollow Knight. It's like, okay, this is like one of those indie games I'm just gonna get. Because everything about its aesthetic, the gameplay trailer, like, looks like it's my style. And man, was this ever my style? I really fell in love with, I mean, not at first. I did really like a lot of the gameplay. It felt fun. It felt cozy. Like, I was able to play for a little bit, and it's just, I felt like everything sunk in. Like, they teach you the basics of the screw, the tools. The wrench, that's what it is. The wrench, they give you the basics of the wrench. Then it's like, oh, I can swing across this, I can do this. Like, everything felt so immediate, felt so understood as I played it that it just intuitive.
Yeah, so this is, I think, one of the things that really sets it apart, and you go over this in depth in your video, but is the way it introduces you to new mechanics smoothly, and it gives you time to get used to those mechanics before throwing something else at you.
Yes.
Where a big problem in a lot of modern games is you get stuff thrown at you and you don't necessarily need to use it, and then by the end of the game you've got 20 different mechanics, and you may have only ever needed to use some of those mechanics in the tutorial section where they were introduced. Like, oh, do this to attack this enemy that way. Okay, I'm going to do that.
It's like the systems never really encourage you.
Right.
Or my favorite is where they teach you something at the very beginning of the game, and like 6 hours later, you finally need to use it, but because you haven't used it since the tutorial, you completely forget you have that ability. So you backtrack, you're lost, you're like, what do I have to do? And you finally look online and it's like, oh yeah, I can do that thing. So Iconoclasts never really had that moment for me. Everything was, again, like it's mostly focused on just the basic tools. So until you maybe start to get some slightly new abilities, but even then, it's just building off of the same basic few symbols, but it never feels like you're limited. It feels like the options are still varied. They're great, and they're really put to use in a lot of the different boss fights as well, which I will admit, I should also note, I played this game twice on PS4. The first time was just to play it, second time for the recording, and now I've almost completed it on the Switch again. And it took until the Switch for me to really be good at the boss fights in any capacity, including that would actually be a spoiler boss fight now that I think about it. So we'll hold that for a little bit. Yeah,
so that was... The boss fights were interesting.
Interesting is usually a bad word.
Well, no. So
disguised as a good word.
I think some of it. So playing on the Vita there were some disadvantages to that because it wasn't always as clear what was going on
as if you were playing on the TV.
As if I was playing on a larger screen, or even watching a YouTube video on my laptop. I could see specific patterns more clearly and say, oh, that was so obvious. How did I miss that? How did that kill me 5 times before I figured that out? Or something like that. So, because all these bosses is basically, there's a trick to it, right? It's a pattern recognition.
In their own way, they're their own kind of puzzles. I mean, it's not even just pattern recognition. I mean, most of the time, you're right. It's pattern recognition for the most part.
Like this boss is going to do this thing, and then as soon as it does that thing, you've got to do this thing, and then swing on this on the wrench, and then it'll open up. Or okay, here's your damage phase. After the damage phase, you have to duck under this thing, otherwise the boss is going to shred you. That was one that got me. The boss fight where you got to duck under the platform.
Okay, I think I know what you got.
I think it's like one of the early for the helicopter.
Yeah. Because there's that one little gap, but like anything else will hit you.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise you gotta step under the gap for like the laser beam or something. No, and I have that too. Like one of the things they show in the trailer is the I can't remember any of the names now. The crawler or whatever
that goes around
the one that goes around this big circle. And for both playthroughs of the game, I was screwed up so much because you got to charge the wrench and then jump onto the thing, and I would immediately jump off because I wasn't sure it was going on time. I didn't realize it was waiting for you.
Right, that was
waiting specifically for you to jump onto the railing. And then it just went automatically.
Right, so there's little stuff like that. So in this one particular fight, you are trying to figure out the timing of when to jump. And if you wait too long, you just go, it just happens. But what actually is happening is the game is like a timer where it'll just go automatically eventually. But as soon as you do your move to avoid the damage, you gotta grab onto something with a wrench. It'll do the move that would hurt you otherwise.
Yeah.
So it can really throw you off because you're like, this timing is so inconsistent.
You don't have to be that vague. That's not really a huge spoiler.
It's not like a huge spoiler, yeah.
No, that I think the boss fights are one of the big draws. People do call it a Metroidvania, but for me, it doesn't really have enough of the exploration puzzle. Well, I don't even want to say puzzle. It's like, for me, like, Metroidvania is all about collecting all kinds of stuff that's, like, really definitively useful. And while I think getting all the different components for your upgrades allows for some usefulness, like, I think most of the components are only going to be good for, like, really diehard kind of players. Like, it doesn't have the same, but then again, like, this is a whole debate. Like, we could probably have a podcast episode on what is a Metroidvania, what doesn't count, like, and why I kind of hate the title.
Yeah, I say Metroidvania has become a really overused title for any game that has sections gated off that you need to acquire a new ability to open that section.
Unless it's Resident Evil, because for some reason the original Resident Evil does not count as a Metroidvania.
Right.
Even though it has the same general design.
A lot of times that was just a key hunt, too. Which is a different...
So Doom is a Metroidvania.
Doom is a key hunt. Doom came out before Castlevania Symphony of the Night, so...
It did, this is true.
So really,
it's a
Metroidvanias are Doom-likes. That's how I'm going to start calling them. It's a Doom-like.
Don't.
No. This game is absolutely nothing like Doom. It's like the exact opposite of Doom.
It's very colorful.
Yes, it's
then again, Doom was colorful.
Right, so from a gameplay perspective, you're basically right. You're in a semi-ish, open-ish world, 2D platforming, and you'll gain various abilities, mostly for your wrench and your stun gun. You only have two tools, essentially, a wrench and a stun gun, that are ever expanded. And as you learn to use those, you'll be able to access different parts of the environment. So, you'll finish sort of level 1, and then you'll go back later in the game to the level 1 area, and now a previously inaccessible area is accessible because you've gained a new ability that allows you to cross a gap or to break rocks that you couldn't break with your earlier version of the stun gun. And so the world slowly expands until you have access to the complete map, basically.
But pretty quickly, they also give you a fast travel, too.
Right,
the fast travel, though, it's like you have to go to the fast travel specifically in that region. So it's like fast travel-ish.
Yeah, fast-ish, travel-ish, in an open-ish, world-ish.
And what I have been doing with the Switch playthrough is I've been trying to get a lot more of the optional content. Like, when you played, did you ever find, there's the girl in the pirate base that gives you the letter.
Yes.
To someone in Settlement 17, Building 10.
Yes.
Did you find Building 10?
No.
I found it completely by accident on my third playthrough. Keep going. Like, you know the last house where the pudgy lady lives with her kid and she hates Robin? You keep going until you walk through the wall, and there's it reveals there's a house there.
Oh, man. Yeah, see, so I've got all of these side quest things.
And then you don't ever complete them because it's like, wait,
I didn't know if that was intentional.
I think they did patch it, though. Like, and they patched it after I recorded, because the Switch version, all of a sudden, like, I'm looking at the map and there's like a heart icon. And I'm like, what is that? I don't remember ever seeing that. And I go, and it's to complete the side quest.
So maybe
it gives
that
you
was
information
bugged?
on the side quest. I don't know if it was bugged.
Or if they just...
It might have been patched in later, is what I think.
Or they patched it to improve that. That was sort of like another game I played recently, Cosmic Star Heroine, where I guess now I played the final totally patched, totally finished version, but apparently that had some similar things where there were side quests that were hinted at but not actually accessible, and then they did a patch, and now that you can do this side quest or something like that.
Interesting.
But I guess the indie games, this is...
You can only do so much. This is like a game that was developed by one guy for 7 years. So and that's what is really, like, even 7 years, one guy, like, this is kind of incredible to consider what he managed on his own. But at the same time, it's also, I feel like that afforded him the ability, because like, I'm playing through Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider, because I'm going to make a Rise of the Tomb Raider video next, and one of the things that I read when looking up interviews, trying to figure out like the whole writing situation, Brianna Pratchett mentioned one of the difficulties in writing for a game like this is you will have a whole bunch of cut content where you have to whittle down and stuff like that. And when you play a game like Iconoclasts, it doesn't feel like... Because a lot of AAA games, you can kind of feel like, oh, they probably wanted to do more. Like, we talked about it with God of War.
Right.
Where God of War, it felt like, oh, they probably wanted to do more with Kratos and his kid at these parts, but they probably had to cut content and boom, here we go. We got what we got. They did what they could in the time allotted. But Iconoclast doesn't feel like that. Iconoclast, the story feels, start to finish, like everything it was intended to be.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it feels like there is a singular vision to the game. Everything feels like, it doesn't feel like, oh, okay, well, we had this one team do this section that's weird or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Final Fantasy VII or something where it's like, now there's a snowboarding game.
Yeah.
Now there's a motorbike section where you fight on a motorcycle. Like, it's very...
Yeah, even when they do introduce a minigame like the whole box sorting, the writing of the characters feels consistent. Because the soldiers always feel weird, because like, until they're actually threatening, they never really feel threatening. No. But they never feel stupid either. They just feel like... They feel like competent slackers, is the best I can put it.
Yeah, they're just... And I think it's good. It helps with the whole world building aspect of it. Is these are regular guys.
Yeah.
They don't know how much they totally believe in all of this.
All the religious stuff.
The religious stuff. And they're just... It's their job.
Yeah.
And they're going to do their job, and maybe they're going to do a bad job. And, oh man, we better shoot Robin.
And I do love how, like, at one point in the game, there's one soldier that, like, kind of just points the gun at her head when she's not looking, and he's, like, shaking his hands. And then when she turns around, he's just like, oh, nope, I wasn't doing nothing. Like, that's the thing. Like, the game's got so much character just in the soldiers, let alone the actual characters. And that's what I spent a lot of time skimming over. Like, I touched on it lightly in the video, but I love all of the characters in this game, even the ones that are like I feel like a lot of people have issue with LRow. I remember you said you didn't like Royal either.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't. I mean, yeah, Royal was kind of, not that I didn't like. I mean, you're not supposed to like him, right? Like, he's not a sympathetic character.
Well,
So anyway, so for the listener here, so there's a core narrative, right, which has to do with Robin, who's a mechanic who just kind of wants to help people. Illegal mechanic.
She's not a licensed mechanic, I guess.
She's a unlicensed mechanic in a totalitarian state that she's not allowed to be. She's supposed to do what she's supposed to do, not do what she wants to do.
Her dad is dead. She's helping out her brother and the other villagers.
She just wants to help people, and she gets caught up in this big web of basically what ends up being the world is ending. The world is ending. The apocalypse, basically, and she ends up being a central figure in
saving the world.
Right.
Effectively, the reason the world is saved altogether.
And all she really was doing was minding her own business and helping her friends and family. That got her thrown into all of this. But then she's surrounded in this by a mix of these, other people who are just sort of playing their part, and these larger than life figures who have all this drama.
They've all got their own goals. They've all got their own motivations that they're driving forwards. Like, Robin feels like the most altruistic character. Because even her enemies, she's not going to kill, kind of a deal. And everyone else is kind of just driven by their own ends. Like, even from the very get-go, they hint that General Chrome, for example, has his own ambitions that he's chasing towards. The only closest comparison would be to Robin would be as a sort of, I don't want to say mirror, but Agent Black is basically doing what duty dictates of her. Mm-hmm. She's not acting in her own interests, but she's acting in the interests of others. But it's not by her own compulsion. She's not doing what she wants to do, whereas Robin sincerely wants to do what helps others. It's an interesting kind of mirror between the two of them.
Yeah, Black is one of the more interesting characters.
She's probably the best character.
Yeah, she's definitely. I mean, so you have a silent protagonist in Robin
for the most part. Yeah, you get some dialogue choices, but otherwise,
yeah, sure, you get dialogue choices. Chrono. And so you have all of this color and all these other characters. You have General Chrome, who's this sort
shirtless cowboy.
Yeah, the shirtless cowboy cyborg.
I just realized I gotta remember. No, he does wear pants. He just got robo legs too.
Yeah,
so I was wondering, wait, does he even have pants or is it just robo legs?
Yeah, the shirtless cyborg cowboy general, which just is that. All, do you need any more description?
Well-read. That's the thing. He's a cowboy, but he doesn't behave like what most people would stereotype. Because he's well-read, he's philosophical, but he's incredibly full of himself.
Yeah,
even though he doesn't think he is.
And then you have Agent Black, who's like,
can we just shoot someone with guns? Like,
yeah, she's just had enough of all of this, and well, you get. I'm not going to give too much away now, but so she's this sort of sardonic, just like, okay, like we're here to kill people, like let's just kill the people,
get
this done with.
Let's make sure everything's in order so we can get this going, because she hints how much knowledge she has about what's really going on too the whole time.
But she doesn't care. She
doesn't care. She's just like, okay, let's just do this because. Like, her question at that point is, what am I even living for?
Right.
And that's what I think is really... Because everyone else is kind of living for something, and she is living for duty, and that's... Oh, my goodness, there's so much you could analyze about her. And maybe we will when we get to the spoilers, which we probably should be trying to get to soon.
So then I'm just, kind of giving over. So you have LRow. So what... I didn't really get LRow.
I kind of do after 3 playthroughs, especially.
You would hopefully would after 3 playthroughs.
Here's the thing about LRow. LRow wants to do what LRow feels like doing, but he's also kind of very. He projects very easily. He's the kind of person that projects very easily onto other people and his own insecurities, but basically he's driven by what just he wants to do. And as a result, the way he talks with other people, he doesn't come off very well. What makes him sympathetic, if anything, is you can at least understand some of his attitude regarding Robin given what he's lost. The problem is he's being hypocritical the whole time, and he is purely acting in his own self-interest the whole time. He is not acting in Robin's interest. He is not acting in anybody else's interest. He's the exact opposite of Robin. He is acting in his own interest, but he masquerades. He's actually closer to Chrome, now that I think about it.
So, well, I think kind of one of the impressions I get with LRow is that he doesn't want to protect Robin from getting hurt. He wants to not personally feel the pain of Robin getting hurt.
Or even being involved, because that's the thing, like, everything he does, he doesn't want to, like, because he's on his own journey, and I can't, until we get into spoilers, I don't really want to detail it.
Yeah.
But he's on his own journey, and he doesn't, and whether he truly believes she's too naive, whether he truly believes she's too innocent, because that's his biggest failing, is he underestimates her. He underestimates Robin completely. And it's funny, because now that I think about it, we haven't even discussed Mina yet, who is effectively Robin's best friend throughout the whole thing. But I mean, I feel like there's also kind of, because she's got her own journey.
Yeah.
She's got an arc. She's probably got... She and Royal probably have the most complete character arcs in the story.
Yeah.
Hers winds up a lot more positive than Royal's.
This is something that's interesting about this game too, is I feel like, and you get turns playing as some of the other characters, but you almost feel like they could make a spin-off Mina game, or like a spin-off like there's sort of, you know what I mean, like there are these. Robin is very your protagonist. She obviously is a silent protagonist, and everything is very sort of straightforward with Robin. Like, you could kind of play the game and skip half the dialogue and just do all this stuff as Robin. Whereas everyone else around her has these complex stories. You know, I'm trying to save my sister, and I'm trying to get revenge, and I'm trying to... my way of saving the world is to do this, and I think I can save the world if I can do this. But I don't really care. I'm just in it for... I don't know. And so you kind of have all these other things happening around Robin that add this color in this narrative, and you almost feel like I want an Agent Black game. I want to have like a prequel starring Agent Black.
Truth be told, I feel like the one character, if you were to do something like that with, you're right, Mina. Mm-hmm. Aside from the fact that you actually play as her, maybe improve her moveset a bit. But she's the one that's going on adventures. Like, that's her character.
Yeah.
She can't stay put, and that's interesting because that puts her at odds with her own like people, and she is very much faithful to her religion, and that's where I do want to dig more into that in the spoilers, because she's very much faithful, but at the same time she stands for everything against it, because she doesn't want to hide. She wants to be out there in the world adventuring. She wants to see everything, and again, I'll get into some of the later stuff in spoilers. I'm not even sure I want to touch on some of that, but then you have Royal, who I feel like there's a lot of people that don't like him, but I think the reason I like Royal is because even though he starts a very conceited brat, his journey is to basically slowly face reality and get broken down. And it's a shame because that end is tragic, but he's very much realizing towards the end that he isn't amazing. He's got these powers, but he's unable to fix anything.
Right,
and that's the first time you meet him. What's he doing? The first time you meet him, he's trying to make flowers like they were in the pictures of the old world. Like,
but
he can't, and that embodies Royal. That small detail embodies Royal.
I almost feel like Royal is almost like the alternate universe protagonist of the game, right? He's sort of like this chosen one who he's gonna buck the system and do the what he wants to do. I don't know. You can almost kind of see that, but then. Well, obviously, Robin being the protagonist, we've already kind of said Robin's going to end up saving the world from the apocalypse or whatever.
Yeah.
That it's not Royal. He's not the one.
No, he's not.
And the where he gets, again, we're not doing the spoiler section, but he doesn't save the world.
No, he doesn't.
He gives you one of the parts of the game that I'm still a little bit conflicted about involves Royal. Hey, Chris knows what I'm talking about.
I do.
We'll get to it in the spoiler section. But, I mean, do we have too much more to say without spoilers?
I don't think so. I mean...
So, here's one thing I want to say about it. This is... I don't know if this is a real term. Or if I'm the one who's coining this right here, right now.
You probably aren't.
On A Steve. Is what I'm going to call aspirational retro. And that's what I consider this game. And the idea to me is if you go back and play Super Metroid or
I'm gonna
let
you finish, but I'm gonna cut you off. Anyway.
Let me finish. Or even Castlevania.
Because I can simplify this.
Let me talk about or Castlevania Symphony of the Night or other things. If you played those games... If you played Castlevania Symphony of the Night in 1997, or you played Super Metroid in 93? 94?
It was up to... You know what? I'm not even going to mess with those dates.
Anyway, whatever date that was, it's sort of like if you go back now, you can see the cracks, right? You can see the issues. But what this is, it's a game that pretends it's like a 16-bit era, 32-bit era platformer, but it's everything we've learned that in game design in the last 20 years since then.
And has more polish.
And polished, applied to that framework.
See, I can simplify this down for you.
Sure.
It's as if we never had 3D and games evolved from there.
Well, I don't know about that, because I don't know.
Imagine if we went from the Super Nintendo to just the 2D PlayStation games and then onward. It's that kind of an evolution. It's what you, playing the Super Nintendo, thought future games would be.
But I don't even know that it's... I don't... That's not what I thought.
Maybe that's closer to Hollow Knight with a hand-drawn animation, because this definitely has the pixel art.
Right, the pixel art. It's just really... It's like...
It plays as good as you would remember those games being without actually playing them.
Right, exactly. That's why I say it's aspirational. It's what those games couldn't have been at that time, but it's...
What we can have now.
What we can have now in sort of looking as sort of an alternate version of the past.
Now, for my own final words, I mean... It's my game of the year still. And, like, I've been playing hours of Spider-Man. Steve knows. I've been talking about it.
And Spider-Man is really good.
I like Spider-Man better than God of War, which I'm probably the only person. But, granted, I haven't finished Spider-Man yet.
And I'm not going to say right now that I like Spider-Man better than God of War, but playing it...
It starts off better. It starts off better.
And we'll talk about this on our later podcast. I'm actually getting a really cool experience that I'm getting to play Spider-Man in parallel with my 7-year-old son.
That is going to be cool, yeah.
And so...
As opposed to playing God of War and then calling your son, boy!
And so I get to see the game through his eyes, and then he's playing on the easy difficulty with like all the accessibility options on. And I get to see it through his eyes. He's actually ahead of me right now. And then sort of see it through my own eyes. It's a really cool experience. But all that to say, I can see where...
Iconoclasts is still my game of the year so far of what I've played. And...
This is... I can understand why.
Yeah.
The only
thing I would go into before the spoilers, and it's because I go into detail with it in the video...
Watch his video.
The whole mise en scene stuff, where the guy puts a lot of detail into the environments, a lot of the symbolism for the... Oh, and I got some corrections to make on that. I do have some corrections for the video. So if you did watch the video, spoiler section, I will have some corrections. But like what the triangle means, kind of in the triangles everywhere for the oh my goodness, How could I forget their name?
I forget all their names.
Oh my goodness, because the Icy Pirates versus
the
Totalitarian. One Concern. That's not their name. One Concern. Yeah.
Is it the One Concern?
Well, that's not the. I guess One Concern. I don't know. By the Try. But you have that. You have all the scenery in the Icy Pirate base, and there's just little details all over the game, just little tiny things, and. Again, 7 years, one guy. It's on one hand, you can see like only a package this tight could be made by someone that has full control over their creation. At the same time, man, I imagine he just doesn't want to even think about a sequel to this stuff anymore because he spent 7 years on it.
Yeah,
so,
and I checked out his website, and it seems like that he did a lot of iterative stuff where he had released.
He did a lot of smaller games before.
He did these smaller games. That had basically all of it has been pointing to Iconoclasts.
Yeah, like he did something called Ivory Springs, which was like a small sort of opening chapter, and then effectively, like that was like the pilot, and now this is the game.
So basically, he's been working on Iconoclasts in some form, the world of Iconoclasts, the mechanics behind Iconoclasts.
Yeah, because one of his games is effectively Mina, right? Yeah.
So this is sort of almost like his life's work right here, his magnum opus. Unless he makes a more opus.
Which we'll see. Yeah, he could end up being like, the guy who did Braid, Jonathan Blow. Where he went from being one guy making a game to now he has a company.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Joaquin Sandberg.
But anyway, this is highly recommended.
Highly recommended. So if you
buy it on Vita, keep the Vita alive.
No, buy it on Switch, the new Vita. Buy it on Switch, the new Vita, or buy it on PS4, PC, Xbox. Buy it on whatever platform you prefer.
Don't buy it on PS4 and then remote play it on your Vita. I feel like that would you'd lose something. Maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. Buy it on Vita, or buy it on PS4, or buy it on Switch. Just whatever you've got in your hands right now, buy it.
Okay, spoiler section.
Spoiler time. Yes, spoiler.
So, for all those that, don't care about spoilers or you've already beaten the game. So, okay, what do we want to touch on first? Because there's like 1,000,001 things I want to talk about. One of them being, correction from the video. Where I spent a lot of time theorizing what the triangle is, and I feel like such an idiot. Because going back and looking at, there's a scene where you go down into the underground and you find the big controller, which is the reason that the bird guy comes back anyway. Royal mentions a comment about it being a holy icon and stuff, and it's like, oh shoot, where did they get the controllers and stuff from in the first place? Those are the things that do the spines, which move, they never go into full detail. I suspect the spines are what kind of churn out and create the ivory or something.
Right.
What makes this planet mechanical, artificial, keeps it changing, are the little controllers. Those are a part of the natural system that they learned to make. That because you go underground, Father was making a bunch of this stuff, and then they sealed a bunch of it away. Which that's where I'm wondering if a lot of the side content gets some answers into that. That I'm going to try and do more of on my Switch playthrough. But that's one of the things again. They don't tell you everything in the story. There's stuff you kind of
a lot of
draw from.
Blanks you have to. So basically, the way the gist of the story is, if you want to go back and tell it chronologically, is 2 colony ships crash landed on this strange world, and they found this substance called ivory, which is like this power source. It's a power source, but it also, they've discovered, could, if you immerse a human in it, it might kill them, or it might give them supernatural strength, abilities, invulnerability, etc.
You either die or become supernaturally powerful, but if you aren't perfectly blended with the ivory, if you aren't perfectly supernaturally powerful, you usually lose a couple limbs or a limb or two, and you might have some form of eternal pain.
Right.
Ash, who is hinted at being Agent Black's dad, he constantly feels as if he's dying because his guts are always in turmoil. Versus Black is constantly having a headache.
And you're nearly invulnerable, and nearly immortal, but you're invulnerable. Because
all you got to do is suck ivory out of the ground, and you're back to life.
But it's a curse as well. So then that's the one faction, and the other faction they use. I didn't quite understand them as well. But they seems to be where the one concern is the faction.
One concern is the ivory faction.
Is the ivory faction. So they're basically draining the ivory and using it for energy. They're using it to create super soldiers, and they've built a whole.
They're using it en masse. The Icy Pirates are the other faction.
Right.
They are using a lot of the seeds on the crash ship. So you get the sense it's a terraforming vessel. It's pretty obvious the old planet was Earth, so it's humans from Earth went to terraform and they crashed on this planet, and they had seeds left over. And the Icy Pirates, they still need ivory for energy, but they think they're more eco-friendly, I'll call it. Because they think they're pulling it out in small reserves carefully from what they call the ivory pustules, when in truth, they're draining it fast too.
And all of this, it turns out that this whole world was built by this some sort
bird
of
race or something.
An alien race. And what exactly their intent was with this world, whether they had...
I'm guessing it's just a gas station.
Yeah, right. Whether that... either way, whatever it is, whether it's supposed to be a gas station or whatever else it is, now they're basically about to return...
Or at least one of them is.
One of them is about to return and find that the world is in ruin.
Yeah, the ivory is drained.
The ivory is drained. It's all been wasted, and that's basically going to be the end of the world. And so what we have now is, and now apparently they've seen them before. They've seen the star worms before,
or at least they have record of it.
They have record of the star worm, which is basically the ship that this alien bird god sort of thing flies, and so. That is the apocalypse that Robin finds herself caught up in.
Yes, because unbeknownst to anyone in the world, the one concern is trying to prepare for the end times and trying to stall it, but secretly Mother has a plan to go to the moon with select people from Bastion Tower that know nothing but obedience. And that's one of the interesting things, because again, we're probably going to be jumping around in the spoilers, I'm sorry. One of the interesting things that I did not realize until, again, this is like sort of an oh dumb moment, was the gun they test on the kid in Bastion Tower. I never made the connection, but that's the same weapon that the bird guy uses on Royal and Robin. Because it gets, and the interviewer confirmed this, basically... What Robin is hit with at the end that puts her in this weird sort of alter reality, it's all of her anxieties. It's all of the things that has her worried and everything. And that's why when Royal's hit with it, he gets like super depressed. He gets like nothing but misery. He gives up kind of a deal. And so does the kid that's hit with it at the Bastion Tower, where they do the stage play and he's like talking, he's trash. You know, the kid that went out, and I didn't even realize he's the same kid that went out in the suit. That's why he insists it's not a human boy that he's talking to. He's like, "What are you?" and everything. I didn't realize that was the same kid.
Okay.
It's like, and it's another one of those oh dumb moments. So like, for someone that's talking about mise en scene, the little details, it's not until like the third playthrough I realized some of the most obvious stuff.
Right.
But
anyways, that's the framework that all of these characters we've been talking about find themselves caught up in. So you have, Black, Chrome, Ash,
that's what, dude, I love that, except for Chrome, all the agent names, Black, White, Ash, Gray, are like grayscale. It's all grayscale
it's interesting.
color, like black and white color. Versus Chrome, who is color, and he's the one that he's the general, he stands apart. He's not actually an agent. Which is weird. I don't know what determines that, but...
Yeah. So, they're sort of... Yeah, and Royal, obviously, who...
is the quote-unquote son of Mother.
Right. So what you have is this system where those who are immersed in the ivory to become agents or whatever else, and you get to see a pretty gruesome scene of all of those who didn't make it, who are just basically dissolved skeletons floating in the ivory.
Where they toss a mention that, like, we haven't had any new good candidates in a long time, and soon, like 5 minutes after that, you drop beneath ground, and it's nothing but the remains of failed fusions. Right. Like,
So when you have a perfect fusion, they're basically kind of become next in line to be the ruler.
Yes.
So you have, and the one currently is Mother, but later you find out there's a retired father.
And he's just stuck in a wheelchair in the tower.
And you find, so the statues, your save points in the first half are statues of Mother, Later in the game, you'll find old statues of Father in this area, and so Royal is one of the main characters. He thinks he's going to be the next Father.
Yeah, he thinks he's going to be the next ruler, and again, like,
but later he finds himself rejected by Mother.
Yeah, rejected by everyone. Like every step of the way.
He's rejected by everyone every step of the way, and finally, he thinks he's going to be the one to save the world. He sees the star worm.
He wants to try, but at the same time, and again, this is where I like his journey, because I think it also is like I think a lot of people can probably relate to it. He reaches the point where he's forced kind of into an existential crisis, where he realizes everything he tries to do fails, and here is Robin, the simple mechanic that does nothing but help people and succeeds in it.
Right.
And so he has one last idea, and he's nothing but thankful towards her, but it's like it's all he has left. And that's the thing, when he finally meets his god, which he believes has chosen him, otherwise why would he have fused perfectly with the ivory? And this god seems completely apathetic towards his very existence. Royal just loses it. He loses it, he gets angry, and it's like as punishment, the star worm hits him with that depression beam. And that's where that's the moment you were talking about earlier, right?
Right, so
divided on, where, according to Joachim Sandberg in an interview, he wanted to make sure the player and Robin herself learned that you can't save everybody. And
so you carry Royal as far as you can carry him, and then in order to continue the game,
you have to leave him behind because he's got like the ID that allows you to pass through the doors. Like he's got.
Right, you've only got only one person can pass through the door. It's like
DNA activated, basically.
Right, only one person can pass through the door, and you're carrying Royal, and he won't move. He can't move.
Well, it's like you can't access the door either way because it needs his ID, kind of a thing.
Right, and so the only way to make it through the door is to drop him.
To leave him behind to die.
Yeah, and that's
the thing. Like he'd given up by that point. You can't do anything else.
Right, and that's
it stinks. And I've looked online to see if there's any. But that's the thing. The developer confirmed. He's like, I wanted to make sure. I think he confirmed that there's nothing else you can do there. Because I don't think there's multiple endings to the game unless it's like complete all the other stuff. Right. But otherwise, like, he dies.
There's not like a Chrono Trigger Magus ending or something?
No. Or Chrono Trigger Chrono ending.
Right. Well, like, if you...
I mean, it works both ways. You either kill Magus or you get him on your team, or, after Chrono dies, you go save him. Anyways, spoilers for, like, a 25-year-old game.
I just mean, like, he shows up in the final cutscene when it's showing everybody... It'll have Magus there, or if you killed Magus...
Oh yeah, he just looks completely random.
Or if you kill Magus, you don't have Magus there. There's nothing like that for...
And Glenn's a human.
What's that? Yeah, Glenn's a human. But there's nothing like that for Royal. He's dead.
Yes. He's dead, he's gone. The last screen you see at the end is the big old flower he tried to make as a real flower. Which, again, that's what I think really... I love that little detail that everything that encapsulates who Royal's going to be through the game is someone trying to make natural flowers and he can't. Because he's trying to do... I mean, for the most part, he's trying to do what is right. He is bucking the system the whole time. Like, Robin helps him, and when he finds out she's a fugitive, it makes everyone else angry, but basically he's like, no, this person's not a bad person. They helped me. So I'm going to save them. Right. And that's why I can't hate Robin. I mean, I'm not Royal. I can't hate Royal. He is, I think, though he's a spoiled brat, but he is not a bad person at heart. He is a victim of circumstance. As much as I know people probably hate that idea. It's like, oh, pity the poor, rich white boy, like...
like, literally white.
Yeah.
White hair,
white outfit, everything.
The whitest guy you know.
Subtext, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, there you
go. LRow, on the other hand, the more I play through the game, the less I like him. So, like, the first time I was like, okay, I can understand where he's... Like the one scene that is most effective is when you're in the house that in the Shockwood Forest, where you're in the house that is about to undergo penance, and he just grabs Robin and runs out, and he's freaking out. He's like PTSD there, and he's just like, "Why are you looking for?" Like, that's. I can understand his response in that moment. I can understand him. And I also feel like it's amusing watching him and Mina, because Mina is always trying to take jabs at the one concern. She's always trying to be snarky and take jabs and point out all the little flaws. And LRow just kind of shrugs it off, and he's like, yeah, but what about you guys?
Yeah.
And that irritates her.
And that's also, I mean, LRow.
I like that dynamic.
LRow is also the one who essentially set these events in motion, right?
Yes. LRow kickstarted everything. It's got to be a secret in there because you never really find out why their dad died. And that's the closest you get to any idea of Robin being a chosen one, is her dad was killed by the one concern. You don't know why, but the thing is, like, she, even then, at most, was just taught by her dad to be an engineer, and he came to regret it. He came to want her to instead be a farmer like her mom. Like, not risk the one concern's wrath. Kind of a deal.
And you can see where LRow gets it, right? Where he just,
he's just a worse version of it, yeah.
Right.
But in the end, and I do love that even in the end, LRow learns a lesson. It's just the very, very end where she actually saves the world, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you what to do anymore.
Like, congratulations!
The perfect end is her, like, just slumping right back into bed. Just like, no response, no nothing, just, I'm going to bed now. And it's like, you earned it. Like, that is the most earned nap I've ever seen.
I just fixed everything and saved the world.
I'm going to bed.
I'm going to bed.
But I feel like I want to talk about Mina a bit. Because, again, she had an arc as well. And her arc was mostly in... Again, like, she's got her own parallel to Royal, because her big thing is she also needs to grow up, and she also needs to, I guess, open her, I don't know, because she, like Royal, she's very much about her faith. She takes it very, very seriously, and throughout the game, she's repeatedly, effectively, she learns that she needs to stop expecting people to just deal with the crap. And I imagine most people playing the game will be a lot more receptive to her attitude, but I do think a lot of times her attitude is intentionally antagonistic, and I think Joachim Sandberg, the designer and writer, intentionally made sure to have her turn that attitude towards Robin, so that the player would hopefully never completely think her actions and attitude were fine. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but because when she turns on Robin, you get to see that petulant, childish nature where she's just lashing out at someone. She's being emotional. Yeah. And I want to believe that's what the author intended, because I don't think it's right for people to think from start to finish her character's okay. She needs to grow up too. She's very childish. She's very... Because she's got that sort of high school nature where, again, she's like, haha, your beliefs, haha. And she eventually has to grow up beyond that. Theory. I do theorize that Captain Myron is her father.
Yeah, I didn't... Until you said that was a theory, I think I had made that assumption.
You made the assumption?
When I'm playing through the game, so yeah.
Because, like, the way the mom talks and is afraid of, like, being left alone by Mina,
right?
It makes sense considering her dad just went off to do his own thing.
Yeah, and this is where so if you haven't played it, or you sort of didn't really pay too much attention, you can see a sort of a difference here between the people who are living under the one concern and the pirates, where it's like everything in the lives of those under the one concern is like totally structured. What you do, where you go, where you live. This is all like it's very totalitarian. Where you get the impression you get with the pirates is that
there's
there's a sort of a freedom, but you almost wonder if it's like a, how would you say it? It's an enforced freedom.
It's an illusion, you mean?
An illusion? Well, not an illusion of freedom. But
nobody's forced into a job. Nobody's forced into a role. But there are, again, some of those parallels. Like LRow points out, because what does Mina say? She says, like, everyone does whatever needs to be done. And LRow is like, well, isn't that kind of the same thing? I'm misquoting it so bad.
Yeah.
But there's something like that. But at the same time, the one big thing that they draw on is like the Dr. Gustavo. He makes a mention about having a disease that will be transmitted through children. Like it's a genetic disease. So with the Icy Pirates, because they found this terraforming ship whose documentation is all about the survival of the species, both the seeds and procreation are big on their on their philosophy. It's all about procreating and pairing up and stuff. And for Gustavo, that makes him an outcast because for the survival of the species, he can't breed because he'll just pass on a disease.
Right.
So, but that's one of the things that for Mina, I feel like this might be stepping into like, dangerous territory. Mina's character, I feel like, and I wonder if it was because they wanted to put up a supportive front. She is in a same-sex relationship with Samba. And unless maybe one of them's supposed to be transsexual, but I don't even know. That I really don't want to get into.
Yeah.
But I mean, otherwise, right. my impression from the get-go was it was a same-sex relationship, which means you can't have babies. And
so you're wondering if
they never really outright say polyamorous. Because if it's polyamorous, because they met like the Mina's mom mentions, there's a boy, he likes talking to you, such and such. It sounds like they're trying to do a matchmaker, but Mina loves Samba. Mina also loves adventure. So on the adventure front, they have her really standing against what the pirates kind of stand for, because she really is true freedom. And as you can see, the actual pirate life like suppresses that. No one wants her to go adventure. She puts them in danger and everything. But I feel like, and I don't know, maybe he didn't want to do. Maybe Joachim Sandberg didn't want to do it because maybe it's risky territory. Maybe someone will think it's intolerance, even though technically it's also kind of. It should be relatable, but in this society, shouldn't a same-sex relationship be viewed negatively?
Right, and that's this is where unless, there's a,
like that. It's a weird thing to talk about, but I mean, I do think it is yet another element in which Mina is so tied to her life as an icy pirate. It is part of her identity. And yet, everything she is stands against that.
And that's a lot of the character, or at least some of the characters, right? Like that's LRow, also, where...
Yeah.
I mean, he literally killed a one concern agent. He was the first one.
He doesn't actually pray. Like, he doesn't really believe it. But
he's still... He's like, he doesn't believe it, but he's still...
And he's working with the Chemical Contra, who are all about finding an alternate source of energy. Right. So even before he kills anybody, he's a rebel against the one concern.
But he's still committed to his religion.
To an extent, he's committed to surviving within the
right
until his dad dies,
or at least the concepts, the broad concepts of it. Maybe.
No, I'd say he's still acting in his own interest. It's similar but different to Mina still.
Right.
Because he's still acting in his own interest, but Mina talks a lot, and this impression is gained very quickly when you first meet her. But I think Mina sincerely cares, which is why she's able to grow as a character. Which is why, after Bastion Tower, it is kind of a sad scene where Samba, says, I'm not going to keep waiting for you, but Mina feels responsible. She feels like she needs to go find Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because she feels an appreciation for Robin. She understands Robin is strong and everything, but it's like, this person has helped me so much, I owe her this. And I think that's the beginning of Mina growing up in the game. She's always kind of she always has that smart alecky nature. But that's the thing, like, in real life, nobody completes growing. People keep growing, so...
and
we haven't even started talking about Agent Black, and we're about on an hour. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So let's talk about Agent Black.
Yeah, after I just talked so much. Why don't you start?
Well, I mean, it's tough, because you played through the game twice. You have a little bit more background.
2.75.
2.75, almost 3 times. And I was sort of just starting to pick up on some of the different character stuff. And it's tough because this is a game where there aren't these extended cutscenes where you get tons of exposition about this character and their motives. You know, Black doesn't have a big soliloquy.
And I think that's intentionally done too, like the way the author said. Like you get the basic gist of the story. You're always going to have the basic story, but
they give you a lot of blanks to fill in.
Yes,
and he gives you some lines to read between as well, to fill in those blanks.
Yeah, like one of the big ones that I think I might have mentioned in the video is, you know, when Agent Black is sitting there like, this is my rocket. She mentions she has a piece of paper in her pocket. It has one order. It's been there for a long time. And, you know, Royal remembers that her name is Madeline. You go up to the moon, and there's a door that says Madeline. And what you get the impression of is the piece of paper was her ticket to the moon. That's all she has to live for now that Agent Gray is dead.
Yeah. But so Black is... She's so difficult because she's like your biggest...
She's the closest to a real nemesis or rival.
Right, she's the biggest antagonist, the nemesis to Robin throughout the story. Yet...
Even though technically LRow is her nemesis. Like,
it's true. He does it just as much to get in her way. But you just can't help liking Black.
Part of it's the sense of humor.
Right.
Like, one of my favorite things is right in the very beginning when she walks in on Robin helping LRow fix the house. And just very flatline, oh no, hedonism. Like,
yeah, right.
No emotion. Or at least that's how I read it. Just, Robin, you're doing the thing! Like,
yeah. Like, she's... It's sort of like...
Great personality, and you can definitely understand her frustration, too. Like, she doesn't like the pomp or circumstance. She's tired of working with all of these, like, especially the one concerned soldiers. Like, she hates having to hear Chrome drone on and on. She just wants to get this stuff done.
She does her job. She does it well. She doesn't have... She's
constantly got a headache.
I once did a thing. It was, we would like your coffee order and what it says about you. And I selected for my coffee order was a double espresso. And what it says about you is you don't suffer fools. Agent Black doesn't suffer fools.
Yeah, because she suffers a headache.
Like, yeah. But then you get this. This is someone who is always in physical pain, right? From the
loss of arms
with the ivory,
and
right?
The headache, yeah.
Yeah, she's basically a cyborg in constant pain. That's just as a side note. That's one of those tropes I kind of like, is this idea of this enhanced human who has paid an awful price for the enhancements. It's just like rather than just this sort of very clean superhuman abilities we always see, that like, no, this comes at a
cost. Yeah,
this comes at a great cost to the person. And so, and I guess that's part of what it is. With all these other guys, you don't necessarily feel the pain in the character. Whereas with Black, you really feel like this is someone who, life is pain.
Yeah, quite literally, but
and then you have
and I think that's what
you had Agent Gray, right?
Well, again, what's also, because if you trace further back, because again, if the hints, the obvious hints are correct, Ash mentions a daughter that was very pious. When you first stumble upon the Transcender machine, it's very clearly Agent Black that they show going through the transformation. And she even mentions she forgot like who told her. Like she thinks a man recommended it to her to get to transcend. But you get the sense that she was once a very pious person, and then she went to the Transcender machine and everything went wrong. And also she lost her dad because her dad got outcast because he tried to stop it. So, like, we're talking about someone that was very pious, very much believed in this god, went to the machine, came out with no arms and an extreme headache. And you see it when they show the arm, the robot arm. The chemical contra person shows the arm, and you just get this blank, emotionless stare. And it's like that's the moment where Agent Black was true. Like she's Agent Black. She's this super negative, super cynical person. And yes, Agent Grey comes along and is able to almost crack a smile. Like basically, for the longest time, Agent Black's been resisting showing any kind of fond emotion, and then, just as she's thinking about it, LRow takes her away.
And that's where our story begins, essentially.
Yes. And, she's such a good character. She's got some of the greatest dialogue.
And again,
greatest song.
If you haven't played this game and you're listening to it, this is, again, a 2D 16-bit-ish platformer, essentially. And this is part of what makes the game so great, is how much the writing and the limited amount of narrative in the game, how much it's able to convey.
Part of that's the animations, too. Like, part of that is just incredible animations. Like, one of my favorite parts is where she's in the room of nothing but sand, where Ivory can't help them. And she's got Royal pinned, and because he doesn't have his powers, all he can do is try and punch her in the face, and it's so weak and pitiful. And it's like just the way they... like, he took the time to animate that. And there's so much of that throughout. Like, when she's really looking like a beast trying to find LRow at the rocket, like, very specific animations. And even if you only see it once in the game, it's like, it is worth it. Like, it makes these moments memorable. It is the greatest...
and you get this, her character sort of finale at the end, where you get this evolution almost, right? Where now she's kind of gone full on rage beast.
Yeah.
Right? And then Robin keeps on sticking the ivory seeds into her, which she's so driven that
she's puking ivory and everything, but she's still going. She's
at this point, she's lasted longer than Mother against this similar attack. Mother, who's supposed to be, this very powerful Black, is just by sheer determination. And then eventually she becomes...
By sheer determination, becomes a giant monster!
She becomes just a pure ivory monster.
And again, best music in the game is playing in the background. And I probably have it for the podcast right now. I probably found it. It's like, this is the background music for this segment.
Yeah. And it's...
Moonlight is the name of the song, by the way.
It really is... it's a great... And again, this is... We're talking about what makes this game great. The whole sequence, the music... The narrative elements.
We haven't even talked about the music, and that was the same guy.
And the way the gameplay, the narrative, the music, and the art all fit together, and that section in particular to me, it's perfect. The intensity is up to 11, and the whole thing. I had a really hard time with one section of the boss fight, but
it's because he's bad at video games.
Yeah, it's because I'm bad at video games. It's really it's all perfect. And then from a pacing perspective, you get this, you finish this, Black dies. Black is finally...
And you just have this great moment. Well, you have a moment of quiet.
Right.
And at the same time, like, the narrative is still going because LRow's not pushing the damn button. So you still have intense stuff going on until, yes... Then you have the moment of calm in the rocket in space.
Then you finally get this moment of calm.
And then, like, that's effectively the last dungeon of the game, and you go, like... Because when you go down to fight the final boss, It's a very short dungeon.
Yeah, it's not really a dungeon like the others were.
Yeah.
But that's I guess that if you had to sum up the game and what's great about the game in one section, it's the final dungeon leading into the, what is it, 3-part? 4-part?
Well, you got the different
You have the rocket fight where she's
sub-agents, yeah.
With Black.
You gotta get the elevator started. That's the worst part. I hate that fight. You get the elevator part, you gotta start. Then you gotta fight Black at the rocket.
No, even before that, Black is you're on your way up, and like Black is chasing. Yeah, that's when
you gotta do the elevator.
Oh, okay, yeah, you get the elevator started, right? So then
you're at the rocket. That's the second fight with her. Where she has a great monologue. Then you have where she's the monster in the first part. Then it's like Brain Monster.
Alright, yeah, so it's like a 4-part. It's this 4-part boss fight, and each part is requiring different abilities, different skills, different usages of it. So it's funny because that first part, I didn't have any trouble with the first part where you start the rocket. I had trouble with Phase 3. Phase 3, and then...
I had a lot easier time on Switch when I was playing. You might have actually patched it again. Like, that might have been something that was patched too. I don't know.
Yeah. And right, it's just the... I can't really say any more about it. It's just a great example of great... just great design. And again, the singular vision we were talking about, where one person saw this idea through from start to finish. And it really shows.
Yeah. Oh, man. Definitely. Just talking about it again, man. Like, this is definitely, so far, top game 2018 of what I've played.
I'll give it my top Vita game of 2018.
But, I mean, I think that's where we'll end our conversation there. I love Iconoclasts, clearly. For conversations about Robin, you can go right back to my video. I do in-depth on the mechanics. Most of if I dive into any character, it's in Robin and Chrome. So enough words have been said there. And if you're listening on the regular podcast through headphones, youtube.com/RamblePak64, RamblePak no C 64. And again, even if you're on the YouTube channel, because if you're on the YouTube channel, you probably never bothered going to my website or checking any of this other stuff out. www.RamblePak64.com is great. Go there. It's mobile friendly now. And for more of the podcast, I have links to the iTunes, Google Play, my RSS feed, so you can drop it into any of your other programs. And I have episodes on God of War. We talked about Infinity War. We talked about a lot of stuff. Nier Automata, Once Upon a Time. That's a great episode. Again, I'll probably post these once in a while for games I'm not immediately looking to do videos of anytime soon. Don't listen to the Star Wars episodes because no one can listen to Star Wars anything anymore, evidently, without going crazy.
No, yeah, Star Wars apparently drives people crazy.
Evidently.
Solo was good, though.
I've heard people say that. I'm waiting for it to show up on Netflix.
It's fun.
I mean, that's what I've heard. I'm evidently Mr. Opposite Man because
you're probably gonna think it's a
miserable
slob.
Well, I like Rogue One, and nobody else likes Rogue One anymore.
Lots of people like Rogue One. Do they
not like anymore?
Rogue One anymore? What?
Evidently not. I don't know.
Oh, because is it like retroactively because they don't like The Last Jedi and they now don't like Rogue One?
I don't know.
Because Kathleen Kennedy ruined Star Wars worse than George Lucas could ever help to.
No, but it's because Star Wars
Next
The Last Jedi is the
on
greatest.
Steve. No.
All Star Wars may as well not exist now that Last Jedi exists because it's the best. No. Okay, that's why we can't do this. No Star Wars.
On that bombshell.
Go to the website, subscribe, listen, and we'll have a couple more like Spider-Man once in a while, just special ones on video games. So, all right, everybody, have a good night.
All right,
man, get out the way. This thing don't eat up bone meal.